The following video is not made for kids. Viewer discretion is advised. Hello to my subscribers, this is the Tiafangi coming to you with what will hopefully be a quick and successful review. And today we're going to be taking a look at the Transformers Legacy United Autobot Chase, or Rescue Bot Chase as he is also known. So this is Chase from the Transformers Rescue Bot series. He took over the role of Prowl in being the Autobot police officer. And the Rescue Bots, it now holds the title of being one of the longest lasting Transformers cartoons to ever be released. I believe Rescue Bots ended up being only the second Transformers cartoon show after the original series Generation 1 to officially have 4 seasons. Every other Transformers cartoon that was released between Rescue Bots and G1 only got up to 3 seasons before the shows were canceled. And one of the reasons why Chase has been a well-received action figure here is because his original action figure created for the Rescue Bots line, Rescue Bots, it was targeted at younger, single-digit aged Transformers fans who were just starting off. And Rescue Bots was a reimagining of the series Rescue Heroes, which was a line of first response. It was a franchise of action figures and a cartoon show based off of first responders, and their names matched to the type of first responding profession that they were a part of. And the Autobots named for the Rescue Bot series, their names kind of sort of matched up the profession that they have. Chase, his name is based off of his profession, since the police always chase down people who break the law, whether it's intentionally or by accident. And evidence of Chase being a police officer, for those who have any doubts, if you look here at his head sculpt, it's a policeman's hat, complete with the gold police badge on his forehead, and I believe his visor is meant to be based off a pair of police goggles that police officers who ride motorcycles often wear to protect their eyes from any hazards that could blind them while trying to stop someone. And his original Rescue Bot action figure, it was a simple designed action figure with a simplistic transformation, and as a result, a lot of the action figures for the original Rescue Bots line of Transformers action figures, they didn't necessarily match the characters' appearance in the Rescue Bots cartoon show. So these new Chug style figures of the Rescue Bots characters, these are ones that are more proportionally match up their cartoon appearances. But these are the first, because Rescue Bots was targeted at elementary school and preschool aged Transformers fans. This is the first ever Transformers action figure targeted at of a rescue of Chase that was targeted at older adult age Transformers fans and collectors. And I personally have never watched a single episode of Transformers Rescue Bots, but from what I've seen, the designs of the characters, they are unique, and a lot of the characters created for Rescue Bots, that's along with Chase, such as Heat Wave, and I forgot the names of the other characters, but they were brand new characters created for Rescue Bots alongside existing characters such as Optimus Prime. And at the time when Rescue Bots was released, I believe it was, can't remember when Rescue Bots was released, if it was 2011 or 2012, but the year that it was released was when Hasbro was starting to promote the aligned continuity, and the aligned continuity was Hasbro's way of bringing a unification into the Transformers franchise. And what the aligned continuity is basically, for a time span of 8 years from 2010 to 2018, so almost the entire decade of the 2010s, every Transformers storyline, series, comic book, all the storylines, all the different continuities, they actually all took part in the same reality. And so Rescue Bots takes place in the same reality, the same universe as Transformers Prime and Robots in Disguise 2015. This was solidified with the appearance of the Rescue Bots version of Blur, making a 1-episode appearance in Transformers Robots in Disguise 2015. And at the end of the episode, Bumblebee even asked Blur if he needed to hurry up and rejoin the Rescue Bot Autobots and their where they were stationed on Earth. Earth. And the aligned continuity, while it was a unique idea, yeah, and I just lost the word. It was a ambitious one, was the word I was looking for. There were blatant inconsistencies with the storyline, and when I say every storyline coming out at that time took part in the same universe, I mean the stories being printed in IDW's comic books at the time, the Transformers Prime, R80 2015, Rescue Bots cartoons, the Transformers War for Cybertron and Fall of Cybertron video games created by High Moon Studios. All those different stories took part in the same universe. So even though Optimus Prime and Bumblebee were located on Cybertron or planet Earth at different times, and they arrived at Earth at different occasions and met different humans at different times. And when they did, it was the very first time that humans and Autobots met each other. Hasbro basically told Transformers fans and collectors, just ignore the blatant inconsistencies. It's all one story taking part in the same universe. But the aligned continuity kind of failed because Transformers fans and collectors couldn't overlook the inconsistencies, and because of those inconsistencies, and because the different stories being told at the time, such as the ones being told in the Rescue Bots cartoon, for instance, versus the stories that IDW was publishing in the Transformers comic books, because a the target ages for Transformers fans, the age range for the aligned continuity was in between the ages of 5 and um, I don't know what age limit IDW prints on their comic books, but um, comparing comparing the ratings of movies, it was basically the age range for the aligned continuity was Transformers fans between the ages of 5 and 25. I have to I have just to give it a solid number there, but Aaron, because of such a wide age range and blatant inconsistencies with the stories, I apologize if I sound like a broken record saying that over and over again. But the reason why I'm emphasizing that is because that was one of the reasons why the aligned continuity, while it started off successfully at first, as Hasbro tried to implement it, didn't quite become as popular with Transformers fans as Hasbro had hoped they would. And by 2018, when IDW announced that they were going to discontinue their ongoing series and wrap them up with the arrival of Unicron threatening to destroy all of the Transformers, like he did in the Generation 1 film. In 2018, Hasbro decided to end the aligned continuity, and starting in 2019, brand new stories that weren't tied to the aligned continuity started to be told once again. And that's why, with the most recent Transformers cartoon shows, such as Transformers Cyberverse or Transformers Earthspark, and the upcoming film Transformers 1, and even the two most recent live action Transformers movies, the Bumblebee movie and Rise of the Beasts, they haven't had any um, ties to the Transformers TV shows and movies that were released during the 2010s. And so that's basically the background history of where Ace is and how the characters from Transformers Rescue Bots now fit in with the Transformers legacy line of not just the aligned continuity, but the entire Transformers multiverse. Every single Transformers storyline and series is now being brought together here under the entirety of the Transformers Generations line, starting with the Legacy subline. I mean, that's pretty much all I have to say. This is the first and only action figure of Chase that I have in my Transformers collection, and the fact that he shares his name with one of the Transformers Generation 1 Throttlebots who transformed into a red sports car, does that mean we're going to get Throttlebots anytime in the near future? I personally hope so, because even though Rescue Bot Chase and Generation 1 Chase, it's just like Generation 1 Megatron and Beast Wars Megatron, with regards to continuity, it's the same thing as meeting two guys on the street who are both named John Smith. So I personally hope we get modern day figures of the Throttlebots while Hasbro still has a registered trademark on the name Chase Ace. But for what it is, I personally enjoy this action figure. So here's Chase in his vehicle mode of a Earth-based police car. There's a close-up of his robot mode, and again, he's designed to be a robot version of a police officer, specifically a police officer that would ride a motorcycle and have a helmet and goggles to protect their face. Here's some more artwork of Chase in his robot mode, and it's a zoomed out version of the artwork here of his head sculpt. It's shown that Ace, his main weapon is an Energon Claw, and it's not been the best received weapon by Transformers fans and collectors. But considering the fact that Rescue Bots was meant to be, yeah, the target audience was younger elementary school age Transformers fans, and the fact that they gave Ace any kind of weapon is one that's a unique one at that. He also has weapons in terms of the red and blue sirens that attach to his arms. Coming here to the back of the box, you've got product photos of Chase in his robot mode and his police car out mode. He transforms back and forth between both modes in 18 steps. And oddly enough, the blue siren is square shaped, while the red siren that attaches to the other side of Chase's police car mode, it's circle shaped. My first impression when I saw the artwork was that it's supposed to be some kind of arm shield, and then the sirens were like an additional battering weapon to use against his enemies. But I honestly don't know what the weapons are supposed to be, if they're supposed to be laser gun based or not. But this is basically Chase has been, for lack of better vocabulary, upgraded into a character with an older target audience, and so he's now armed with a weapon. And yeah, he's ready to now take on the battlefront and fight the Decepticons full on. Uh, the gloves are off now. There's no censorship. There's no holding back like any of the graphic violence. And so that's how I view this new Legacy United action figure of Chase. Um, Somewhat surprisingly, Chase is not the first character from Transformers Rescue Bots to be given a Chug style figure in the Transformers Legacy line. That title belongs to Medix, who was released in the Transformers Legacy Evolution line in 2023. He's one of the hardest to find deluxe class figures of the Legacy Evolution line. Medix, unlike Chase, who is a new mold, Medix is a retool of the Legacy Year 1 Skids mold. But when he was announced, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors didn't think that we were ever going to get characters from Rescue Bots. So with Medix and Legacy Evolution, and now Chase and Legacy United, um, the question now is which will be the next? Who will be the next character from Transformers Rescue Bots to be given a Generations Chug style figure? If I had to vote, I personally would vote for Heatwave. If I love the idea of an Autobot fire truck who actually looks like a human firefighter. But time will tell at this point. Mind. But another reason why I'd go with Heatwave is because with Medix being an ambulance and Chase being a police car, it would make sense for the three most well-known first responder emergency vehicles to be of an ambulance, a police car, and a fire truck to be the first Rescue Bots characters to be released. But I've babbled on long enough, and I've made the video longer than I wanted it to be already, so let's hurry up and get Chase out of his box and take a close look at him in robot mode. Alright, and so here is Chase out of his box and transformed into his robot mode, and while I do have to admit he's not the greatest action figure to come out in the Legacy line, um, he is still a brand new mold, so he does at least have that going for him, but he's not without flaws. He has a really wide ankle tilt here on the bottom of his feet, and even if you straighten his feet out, it looks like there's spaces missing there between his foot and his ankles. And if you were to spread his legs out until his feet sit flat on the ground, he's in this sprawl-legged pose like this. And this is why I keep saying that, to me, Chase looks more like a motorcycle cop than a cop that would use a police car or a police cruiser, because with his bow-legged stance, and it looks like he's ready to hop on a police motorcycle instead of into a police car if he was a human and not a transformer and didn't transform into the vehicle himself. But that is something that can be overlooked. But unfortunately, what cannot be overlooked is that when you turn Chase around, these parts of his vehicle mode, which act as a pair of wings, they don't fold back any farther here along his back. They're stuck like this. And because of that, they impose on his shoulder articulation. I mean, there is clearance there, but it's only like 1 millimeter. And if you angle the arm arm out wide enough, it will hit it just like that. So unfortunately, this wing backpack that Chase has been given, even it's one that I saw many collectors when Chase was first released earlier this year. They said that was one of the things they disliked the most about Chase was having these wings on his back. So if the wings weren't there, he'd be free to have a lot more articulate use of the articulated joints that he has in his arms. His head is on a ball joint, so for articulation, his head can technically it can go up and down a bit. It looks more down than up, but because of the way his chin is shaped, it bumps the hinge joint there on the front of his chest, and so he can't really turn his head side to side. The arms have the ability to spin 360 degrees forward and backwards, but if you go backwards, again, you're going to hit those wings right there, and it stops the arm from going backwards. So the arms have the potential to spin 360 degrees, but it's next to impossible to spin the arms backwards due to the wings being right there and stopping them from having backwards motion. You get a swivel joint in the bicep right above the elbow, a hinged elbow. The hands can technically go in and out at the wrist, but that's primarily a transformation joint. Right. Waist swivel, which is kind of good. And one thing I like they did is that the part of the roof is attached to the lower half of him, so it spins around without having to impede it. On Transformers action figures in the past, this piece would have been a part of this one right here. It wouldn't have prevented the waist joint from activating entirely. The legs can go out this far, so Chase can do a full splits if you move his arms up and out of the way. So he has universal jointed hips. Legs can go forward that far. They can go back only this far. And that's one of the drawbacks of having that roof piece there on the lower half of the body is it impedes the backward leg movement. Knees can bend and 1 millimeter above 90 degrees. He does have thigh swivels, so you can spread his legs out even farther apart. And of course, you got the reversed ankle rockers due to how he transforms. And the toes, unfortunately, can't go up and down, but the heels can due to transformation. And that's pretty much it. Because of some of the kibble, even though it's not enormous, technically it's somewhat small. Chase is prevented from having full use of his robot mode joints, which is kind of a shame. But overall, I can't give Hasbro and Takara Tomy a failing grade for trying to make Chase Ace, redesigning him to match his appearance in the Rescue Bots cartoon and giving him a brand new action figure that older adult age Transformers fans collectors might find interested in adding to their Transformers collections. And I do love the paint on his head sculpt. It's all solid plastic, so the visor, the police badge on his forehead, the helmet, and even the silver on the lower half of his face. It's a pretty great amount of paint apps. I do love that the Autobot logo on his chest it has a silvery white outline. I love Autobot and Decepticon logos that have outline frames on them because it makes it stand out much more prominently versus ones that don't. Because even though ones that don't, it does help when there isn't a frame on the Autobot on the faction symbol. It helps the Transformers character to be more of a robot in disguise. For me personally, it prevents the logo from being visibly seen and makes it harder to find. And such as here on Medix, the only Autobot logo he has on him, it's on it ends up on the center hood of his vehicle mode, so it basically ends up on the back of his head facing upside down, so that's a bit of a letdown there. So here for a size comparison, here is Chase next to Medix. Again, Chase is a new mold, Medix is a retool of the Legacy Skids mold, and depending on how far apart you have their legs displayed, they are pretty much the same height. Medix is slightly shorter than Chase is, but giving them a full or almost a full 360 degrees right there. Medix is a much bulkier deluxe class figure than Chase is. Chase is much skinnier than Medix, and that's even if you were to remove the backpack from him, Medix is still a slightly bulkier deluxe class figure than Chase. I thought his claw weapon was going to be one solid part, but the two hooks on the claw are actually separate pieces. So if you wanted to, you could remove those, and you could give if Chase to hook sickles. Although I've never known any police officers to use sickles as a weapon of defense against criminals. And then, of course, you've got the two sirens. Aaron's, I put them in the spot that's on the product photos and the box art. So here's the red siren, it's circle shaped, and the blue siren is square shaped. 8. There's 5mm ports inside them, so you can remove the claws from the fist claw that you have on here. And by the way, the claw can be held in two spots on its side. There's just enough space on it that it can fit on Chase's hand, or if you want, you could use the actual 5mm post and have Chase. Well, he can't hold on to it, unfortunately, due to the kibble of the doors on his robot mode hands. But if you wanted to put it on any of the 5mm pegs that Chase has on him, you could put it on there. But to have it actually be held, you need a Transformers figure that has a hand with no kibbler on it and has clearance space on it. One last minor nitpick: I wish they would have painted Chase's wheels. But considering the fact that I have seen police cars here in my hometown that have unpainted black wheels, black hubcaps, apps on the tires, I guess it does work having the wheels unpainted. And here again is Chase standing next to Medix. So overall, it's the robot mode. It's again not the best, but it's not the worst. So I'd say it's a fairly moderately successful deluxe class ass-sized robot mode. So now that my mind is starting to wander and I'm starting to lose my train of thought, let's hurry up and get Chase transformed into his alt mode, and we will wrap up the review. Alright, and so here is Chase transformed into his alt mode of a police car and having all his weapons accessories attached to him. This is the best storage for the claw, having it on here with the claw pinching hooks facing the light bar that's on Chase's roof. The transformation, I will admit, it is a mess. It's very difficult, especially the last step with those wings on the back folding down here. You have to, there's a little tab right there and has to go around this entire robot mode kibble piece right there between my fingers, and it's almost 2 centimeters wide, so I can see the wings breaking or chipping off at some point someday. So that's very discouraging. So, unfortunately, I am afraid to transform Chase back and forth between his robot mode and his alt mode. And subsequent mold mates of his, I will be equally cautious when transforming them as well. I thought the hinge joint on the wrist was a transformation joint, but no, the hands don't change position from between robot mode and alt mode. So that was just that hinge joint was put there to make the hands separate parts and give him an inward hand motion. You could, if you don't like the sirens sitting here on the sides of Chase's doors. Unfortunately, the only other pegs to put them on are up here on the front of the hood, right below the rearview mirror, or here on the back behind the rear wheels. I wish they would have put the 5mm pegs up here on the top, because having the sirens on the hood, that is a spot where police cars have sirens irons attached at times, but overall, it is a very boxy shaped police car, and that is the shape of police car that Chase transformed into in the Rescue Bots cartoon show. Not all the panel sections, unfortunately, want to line up properly, so Chase is one of those deluxe class Transformers figures where his alt mode, unfortunately, looks like a jigsaw puzzle. But apart from that, it is pretty unique. Most police cars, Transformers, end up having a paint job similar to Prowl, where it's mostly a traditional black and white police car, or it ends up being like a Barricade, where it's almost entirely black. So for a police car to be mostly navy blue with white, it's a paint job that police car Transformers haven't had as commonly as the other paint job figures. So I'm starting to lose my train of thought, and my tongue is starting to not be in sync with my mind and what I want to say. So I'll conclude by saying that despite the jigsaw puzzle looking mess that it is, I actually enjoy the way Chase's alt mode came out. And for a size comparison, once again, here he is next to Transformers Legacy Evolution Autobot Medix. Medix is he's a mold mates with the mold that was originally used on Legacy skids. He's closer to the crankcase use of the mold than he is skids, but again, it's really nice to have chug style action figures of characters from Transformers Rescue Bots. It's When Medix was announced during Legacy Evolution last year, a lot of Transformers fans and collectors didn't think that Rescue Bots was going to be one of the Transformers series where we would be getting Generations Chug style figures in the Transformers Legacy line. And now with the release of Chase, Transformers collectors are now asking who the next character from Rescue Bots will be released in this series. When Chase was first announced, I wanted to wait until he was transformed into his alt mode. Due to the boxy shape of his police car mode, and one of the giveaways was the exhaust pipes sitting here right in front of the rear wheels. A lot of Transformers fans and collectors, when Chase was first announced, they went, this guy is going to end up being mold mates with Prime Cliffjumper, and now, as of this video's recording, it's August of 2024, and Legacy Cliffjumper has been released. I got the Legacy Prime Cliffjumper figure for my birthday last month in July, and yes, it is a repaint and a retool of Chase. So yes, for fans and collectors who guessed that Chase was end up going to be repainted and retooled into Prime Cliffjumper, you can give yourselves a pat on the back because you guessed correctly. This figure is mold mates with a new figure of Prime Cliffjumper. The wheels do roll fairly well when I slide it here across my hand, but as far as rolling around on a solid surface, I just tried to do it on my computer, but there's not much friction. Not much more friction here on the cardboard of Chase's box, but there is clearance for the wheels to spin. And at first glance, you might think you only have a hairline of clearance due to the ibble on the underside of the vehicle mode, but if you look closely, there's almost an entire centimeter of clearance, so there is enough space for Chase to roll around successfully if you can find a surface that'll give his tires enough friction to spin around out in place. It is less clearance than Medix has, but whether or not that's been fixed on the Prime Cliffjumper use of the mold, I honestly cannot say, since I still have him in his box. The one minor major gripe I have with Chase is that his front section wants to split it apart. The peg that's supposed to keep it in place, it's in a spot where it's not really in the center area of the two panel sections that form the front half of Chase's vehicle mode. So that's my main gripe with this action figure, is that the front section of Chase's vehicle mode wants to split it apart. Alright, so I kind of wish they would have made the pegs a little stronger there so it doesn't look like someone tried to slice Chase in half down the front section of his vehicle mode. Hopefully that was fixed with Cliffjumper. I'll have to take a look at it when I eventually get around to reviewing Legacy Prime Cliffjumper. So, for my final thoughts to answer the proverbial question I ask at the end of my reviews, do I recommend getting Transformers Legacy United Chase and adding him to your Transformers collection? Despite all the complaints that I've said about this figure, my answer is yes. I do recommend getting Chase, especially if you're a fan of Rescue Bots. If you're a fan of Transformers characters who are Autobots that have police cars for alt mode, I highly recommend you get Chase. But if you're going to be put off easily by the QC issues that I showed off and named off here with Chase, then unfortunately he can be an easy pass, especially if you are not a fan of Transformers Rescue Bots. Um, Chase, he does have a unique enough design, but unlike Medix, whose head sculpt was just a reuse of the head sculpt that was used on the Burnout repaint of the Skids mold, and was also used on Crosscut, Chase, he does much more closely look like his appearance in Rescue Bots compared to Medix. So he does have that friendlier face than Medix does. So while he's not a must-have figure, I still highly recommend getting him. So thank you to my subscribers for your continued support, and until next time, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, transform and roll out.